Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. Last night in the wetlands of Reekwater, it was an AB hold for Elazian and fending off the marauders of Kingston Clan. This reporter was able to acquire a media pass and participate as a non-combatant. There was a moment of concern early as this reporter was caught unprepared for a gas attack, but once prepared, was able to control the ramparts with the help of Lanalor and Tristan Nex. Later, I was able to get pretty close to the action. Maybe a little too close, but fortunately for me, I've learned how to move around quickly while reporting on the regions of Eternum. And since I'm not a noob, I didn't run from my enemy, but rather to my allies. But that was then, and this is now, in the region of Restless Shore, where tonight, the forces of Squathead will attempt to hold off Elazian Kingdom. Squathead has managed to hold the fort a couple times recently and has garnered the attention of Elazian forces. Looking at the infrastructure of the region, it is clear that Squathead has neither improved the hamlet nor themselves through combat, as the corruption continues to spread. In the late matchup, it's the forces of Elite Mercenary attempting to secure the forward region of Morningdale from the forces of Regime. Having recently acquired the region from Death's Wish, Regime has been diligent in their efforts to improve the hamlet and drive out corruption. But Elite Mercenary are intellectually curious about the Wall of Death and the regions beyond it to the north of Morningdale, and seek to set up a forward observation camp. In order to do that, they will have 30 minutes to complete the officially sanctioned LARPCO Simulated Combat Resolution Challenge of seizing Fort Morningdale. Stick around for reactions and comments from the crowds after tonight's event at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. Another shift in the dynamic of Eternum as Elazian Kingdom overcame the forces of Squathead last night. Eliminating the Marauders' presence from Eternum for now, Elazian reminds the citizens to prepare for their return. Faction members visiting the hamlet are encouraged to partake in the free blanket giveaway going on next to the trade market. In the late matchup, it was the forces of Regime holding out against the Elite Mercenary of the Syndicate. We spoke with Regime leadership after the match about their plans for Morningdale and the mysterious death wall to the north.
For me to know and you to find out, maybe. I don't know much about it. I've never been up there.
In other late-night news, reports of a mysterious condition causing blackouts among the citizens of Eternum. Initial investigations into the Incan inscription reveal them to be Aztec in nature. We asked the Angry Earth expert Adiana Theron about how to overcome it.
That may be impossible.
We at KOTT News will continue to investigate this phenomenon and bring you more at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is a World PvP alert. This is investigative reporter JChalant reporting here first that the Angry Earth goddess KOTT is enraged. The spirit of KOTT is fueling a surge of corruption outbreaks throughout the regions of Eternum, each larger than the last. A number of opportunities for the citizens to fend off corruption will present themselves this weekend. And it is all but guaranteed that World PvP near forts and faction missions will occur during periods of invasions, especially from the Marauders whom literally have little else to do. But returning to the topic of corruption, this week's Brightwood Citizen of the Week is the Dimension of Night Shift. Fighting bravely alone, I was able to speak with them after their encounter. Thank you very much for helping me take out that little corruption spot there. Actually, it was mostly you. I just showed up at the end, if I'm being honest.
It's all good, man. Thanks for the help. Always appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you for the help. Have a great time out there. Only one war on the books for tonight, as most regions are focused on the corruption, but the Church of Disrespect doesn't bother asking if you're busy when they want Windsward. Windsward has been enjoying economic prosperity recently, but the corrupted forces spilling over from Cutlass Keys may have been a tactic of the Church. With their attention divided, it's anyone's guess if Elazian will be able to defend the hamlet from forced conversion through religious inquisition. Tune in for reactions and commentary from the citizens of Windsward at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. As reported yesterday, World PvP was especially prevalent and has thrown the regions of Eternum into disarray. 4 fights tonight, starting with Mad Prophet's attempt to overthrow the forces of loyalists from Weaver's Fen. Denied in their attempt to seize Everfall, Mad Prophet has turned his attention to the oil fields of Weaver's Fen. But the Fen has been under the control of loyalists since they took it from the Marauders of Imperial Guard, who have returned from organizing more troops and are making an assault on the Spiceport town of First Light. Attempting to establish a beachfront from which to grow, they'll need to overcome Dominion, who are well entrenched, to protect their spices. But taking First Light will also give them more opportunity to recruit new refugees who are seeking to test their mettle. All 4 of tonight's events are officially sanctioned fantasy combat resolutions and, of course, are brought to you by LARPCO. Only the patented space-age technology of the LARPCO foam core guarantees both longevity and safety. Remember, if it isn't LARPCO, it's cardboard. The undercard tonight will be CN Panda attempting to leapfrog its territory by assaulting Elysian for Reekwater. When last this reporter spoke to leadership of Panda, it was my impression that they felt Ebonscale was their forever home. And while scouting the area to ensure compliance with official LARPCO events, there was no bamboo, only fish. In the final conflict of the night, retaliation by Elysian as the bamboo forest preserves of CN Panda and Ebonscale are now at risk. Panda has previously been able to hold off the Marauders of Civil Riot, but have they bitten more bamboo than they can chew in stirring the attention of Elysian? This could be a real test for all parties involved. Back-to-back war events can put a very real mental and physical strain on participants. Regardless of outcome, be sure to tune in at 11 for reactions and commentary from the citizens of Eternum. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. The influence of the corruption's ego was in full force last night as invasions, wars, and world PvP events were ongoing throughout the weekend. Ebonscale was bustling with activity after the late war last night, as Elysian forces were able to quickly overcome the preservationists of CN Panda. Having fought in 2 wars that night, the wary combatants were anxious to soak in the healing hot springs of Ebonscale. Elysian leadership immediately began issuing medicinal herbs and teas to all faction members sturdy enough to venture to Ebonscale. As reported earlier in the week, world PvP opportunities in Eternum were high throughout this weekend, especially around Brightwood Camp, where Primordius and Free Trade Company were holding things down, and along the Death Wall Road north of Morningdale, where torrential rain served as backdrop to torrential conflict. And though Regime has been reasonably tight-lipped about their plans for the Death Wall, the curiosity of Elysian will not go unsatiated. To close in on the mystery of the Death Wall surrounding the island, they must secure the northern outpost of Morningdale. Elsewhere on the island, Imperial Guard will try again to claim a southern shore, challenging for control of Cutlass Keys. Fresh off their warm-up war last night in First Light, they seek to try again tonight against the Church of Disrespect. The Church has remained diligent in exercising the corruption in their region while maintaining a fair tax rate. But when have Marauders ever needed a reason to pillage a hamlet? Stay tuned after tonight's wars for reactions and commentary at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night, as both defending forces were able to fend off efforts to seize their respective regions. Special attention to Morningdale, where Regime was able to stand their ground against the forces of Elysian. Oh dang. Why is the wall so important to the Covenant as to inspire such tenacity? And what could be beyond the wall? We spoke with the Regime representative about their successful war strategy and about why they fight for the wall.
We yielded 2 flags, which was a part of the plan. It was a flawless war in the sense that it went exactly how we thought it was going to go. We gave up the flags at opportune moments when we realized that they could not possibly beat us on the beat At that time, when we were defending them, we weren't sure if we could handle the 50-man Zerg that they pack a punch with. But once it became clear that time was running out, which they've never experienced before and obviously made them uncomfortable, once that occurred, we realized, let's just give them the flags. Let's go to B and hold it, because they have no chance of beating.
Care to tell me why you've been fighting so hard to hold the region of Morningdale and prevent the Syndicate forces from setting up a study camp?
The Spark called upon us a long time ago, all the way back in Alpha, and we knew this death wall was our call to glory. And in the middle of the night, I heard, if you hold it, they will come. No one should give up on this server. We're here to stay. Yellow is not going to be wiped off the map. Green, don't give up. Elysian may be our foe now. There'll be a new foe down the road.
Turning to a lighter news moment, this weekend wasn't all gloom and doom and KOTT as a regional Rapier club of Windsward was able to put on a display of dashing duelists. Anyone interested in learning more about Rapier skills and techniques are encouraged to request a club invitation in Recruiting Channel. This is an all-factions club that focuses on Rapier respect and fellowship. And finally, tonight we turn our attention to Everfall, where it will be the forces of Elysian attempting to hold off the opportunistic forces of KOTT. After their first attempt to secure land in Eternum, KOTT vowed to win next time, and that time appears to be now. Elysian physical trainers had their team regroup to the healing springs of Ebonscale to debrief in the onsens after their 2-flag effort last night, so they expect to be properly rested. This will be the 4th Neverfall attempt for Elysian after being successful in their first 3 holds. The current Neverfall record is held by The Reckoning with 5. Tune in for reactions and comments after the war tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. 2 developing strategies amongst the barbarian forces of the Marauders. Should this be cause for concern? No change in regional control last night as the forces of KOTT were turned away by the well-prepared Elysian. This marked the second time KOTT has intentionally challenged Elysian and brought cardboard to a LARPCO fight. But for Imperial Guard, a simpler plan. First, they try again to capture the PD oil reserves of Weaver's Fen from Loyalists. Loyalists have dedicated themselves to refining this once dilapidated hamlet. Dilapidated by whom? Imperial Guard! It will be up to the Loyalists to prevent the Marauders from laying claim to the primary oil reserves of Eternum. Imperial Guard returns again later tonight in Morningdale as they attempt to take advantage of the exhausted regime. Will taking advantage of simultaneous corruption outbreaks prove beneficial for Imperial Guard? And what would they do with the wall? What would you do with the wall? Leave a comment below. But to get to the wall, they need to get to the keep. And to get to the keep, they need to get through 3 grueling objectives within 30 minutes. Be sure to tune in for reactions and commentary at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. It was double duty for this intrepid war correspondent and play-by-play announcer last night as I was fortunate enough to receive a press pass. Of course, as an officially sanctioned LARPCO event, I was issued an official war correspondent protective beanie. Early skirmishes along all 3 objectives resulted in an early take on A for Imperial Guard. The Guard then shifted into a swing offense, sending a 5-person squad from their forward A respawn across the back line of Regime. And while initially impactful, getting as much as 75% on both B and C, the rotation from Regime was able to hold out until the end. The first of 3 wars tonight gets started in Ebonscale as CN Panda claims right of first rematch in the name of the Bamboo Forest Preserves. Elysian recently secured the fort from Panda in record time, but inspired by the defiance of Regime 2 nights ago in Morningdale, they feel the spark will see them through. Citizens concerned about the outcome are encouraged to visit the healing hot springs and try a complimentary herbal tea. Meanwhile, in Monarch's Bluff, the split forces of Elysian will have to contend with religious newcomer Kingforge. King Forge mission declaration is one of fellowship with smaller refugee companies looking for a place to participate here in Eternum. Securing a region where new refugees wash up would go a long way towards that goal, but will they be able to overcome Elysian? And in the after nap matchup, it's CN Panda challenging the Iron Chefs of Reekwater to a Shokugeki for control of the region. CN Panda appears divided in their attention, foregoing their declared intention to forever home in Ebonscale. Investigations by this reporter have failed to answer why they seek Reekwater. With a master fisherman and several key fishing hotspots nearby, you can rest assured that it's probably going to be a fish battle. Tune in tonight at 11 to see whose cuisine reigns supreme. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. Valiant effort by King Forge last night, and CN Panda falls short in the early matchup, as well as the late night Dover Soul battle. Slow day in Eternum this afternoon, taking a closer look at the new public works project in Morningdale. Once an unkept river running through town, regime leadership has implemented a freshwater canal project through the hamlet. Completion of the project is expected to help the natural spring water remain fresher longer as it flows downstream. High occupancy transition bridges across the project have already been constructed for local pedestrian traffic. Water exiting the hamlet is still directed back into the natural waterways downstream, promoting natural alligator habitats. But they'll have to put that project on hold tonight as they defend themselves from the marauding forces of Pacific Raven Company. Regime has had to balance a lot of fronts lately, fighting wars every other day and combating the corruption. But that matters not to the Ravens of Pacific Company, who will put everything they have into the hardest 30 minutes in simulated fantasy combat resolution. Do they have the will to succeed where others have failed? Do they have the wisdom to choose LARPCO brand simulated fantasy combat gear? Tune in tonight at 11 to find out and get reactions and commentary from the citizens of Eternum. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night, as most people were taking it casual. Like members of the Graveyard Shift, a Marauder's sister company to Syndicate Company Night Shift, who held an informal Murky the Turkeys festival in and around Everfall. We spoke with ISS about the event.
We planned our Thanksgiving event called Murky the Turkeys outside of Everfall. We grouped up at the fountain and then we went outside and we were flagged looking for a little open world PvP.
Oh.
We found a few syndicates that we overcame and then we went on our turkey mission.
That sounds fun.
We got a couple of turkeys, came back to town, cooked turkey with stuffing and mushroom gravy. We had some other members of the community make other items for everyone. Someone made turkey pot pie and someone else made blueberry pie.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Then we all gathered in the church and formed a line. Everybody got their meals. And then we went into the town hall, gathered around the table and ate our meals, took a couple pictures, and then afterwards we watched a movie together.
Unaccompanied marauders seeking like-minded members of the community to experience Eternum with are welcome to solicit a company invitation. Turning our attention to tonight's events, we get things started in humble Brightwood, where the forces of Mad Prophet seek to take out Primordius. Mad Prophet has been unsuccessful in their bids for Everfall and Weaver's Fen, so they have turned their attention to the woods. But are they prepared for what they will find? Later, it's the forces of Elysian defending their coastal territory to the east from the marauding forces of Vergerus. Restless Shore has long been in dispute by all the factions of Eternum, but it is Elysian that holds it presently, and they are accepting all challengers. And finally tonight, it's Elysian again, attempting to tie the current Neverfall record of 5 straight by holding off Church of Disrespect. This will be the Church of Disrespect's first attempt on Everfall and the second attempt on an Elysian-controlled territory, so one presumes they're bringing LARPCO. Tune in tonight at 11 to get reactions and commentary from the citizens of Eternum. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News.